How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the Purple Box, the semi-regularly posted series where I try to chronicle every non-unique purple weapon in Borderlands 3 to let you know whether it's trash, treasure, or completely inconsequential. If you'd like to give any of the weapons showcased in this video a go, a save file containing all of them will be available in my Discord server linked down in the description. But with that out of the way, Dahl, for when all you need is someone dead without any bullshit. Dahl offers reliability first and foremost with their firearms. You know, next to tactically accessorizing, of course. Sporting overall average stats across the board with different weapons focusing more into different strengths, every Dahl is also equipped with 2 of 3 possible firing modes: full auto, semi-auto, and burst fire, which can be swapped between at will. A quick note with this, when in semi-auto, you actually do get some bonus damage to compensate. Snipers and assault rifles get 20%, while SMGs get 10%. Pistols here are unaffected. This bonus is multiplicative like the other manufacturer-specific damage bonuses, so while it sounds somewhat low, it's actually pretty impactful. Dahl guns are also able to come in all of the elements. But with the overview out of the way, let's get into actual weapons here, starting out with pistols. And up first is the Raptor, being our lowest damage but highest fire rate pistol, having a 5-shot burst when in burst fire. And we're not really starting out too strong here because the Raptor kind of felt pretty bad. The base damage of it was incredibly lacking, and the fire rate really didn't feel like it made up for it too much. While it was definitely able to kill and it wasn't completely unusable, I probably wouldn't want to go out of my way to pick one up. Or hell, I probably wouldn't even take one if it was given to me. I'd also probably ask, why the fuck are you gifting me a gun and can you please leave my house? But yeah, the Raptor, not too great. Up next though is the Shrike, which has overall balanced stats with the best accuracy and lowest recoil of the pistols. This also has a 4-shot burst. And we are definitely getting better here from the Raptor. It is a pretty decent step up, feeling far more usable, but it's still not quite good just yet. The damage was still a little lacking, but far better, especially considering there wasn't a huge drop in fire rate. If I wanted a faster firing Dahl pistol, the Shrike would be my go-to, but it wouldn't really be my go-to for a Dahl pistol. Which brings us into the Falcon, having our highest damage but lowest fire rate, and having a 3-shot burst. Here's where the Dahl pistols finally get good. The biggest problem with the last two was damage. Well, the Falcon gives you that damage. As I've been obviously alluding to, this thing definitely functions by far the best of the 3 generic pistols and easily comes out on top. It really doesn't even feel like you're losing out too much elsewhere just because the extra damage is so impactful that it genuinely does feel like a good weapon. The other two were viable and could kill, but the Falcon kills well and is actually just a solid weapon. Finally though, for our pistols, we have the Wyvern being our alien barrel option. The projectiles of the Wyvern will stick into enemies and explode shortly after impact. This has a 3-shot burst. And the Wyvern actually felt incredibly fucking good. Surprising for an alien barrel, but definitely one of the best of them. That being said, it's a pretty low standard and there is just a bit left to be desired. A real shocker was that the ammo consumption didn't feel that awful considering it is 2 ammo per shot, but the biggest problem is that I just wish it had a little bit more damage. The damage was good, don't get me wrong, it could kill and it could kill pretty effectively, but oftentimes it would leave enemies alive with maybe like a 1/5 of their health bar left. If it had just an extra little bit of damage, this would go from a solid alien barrel to actually a good weapon overall. With Dahl pistols as a whole, there's really not a whole lot of variety. They all function incredibly similarly to each other, which is really to be expected from the all-around good stats and not too gimmicky nature of the manufacturer, which by default kinda just makes the Falcon the only one of the generic pistols worth using. It just gives you the most damage while not sacrificing too much on other stats, still being that all-around well-balanced weapon, but dealing better damage than the other two. The only other pistol really worth thinking about is the Wyvern, which I did really enjoy. Not only a fun alien barrel, but actually a decent one at that. I do also wish that the pistols got that semi-auto bonus damage, because as it is right now, while pistols do function pretty well with all 3 of the firing modes, semi-auto does definitely feel the weakest of the 3, and it would be nice if it just had that extra little boost. It really wouldn't even need to be anything big. I think for the pistols, they could even just go down to 5% on semi-auto, but again, all 3 options are pretty good on pistols. And overall, again, the Falcon is a great pistol, but the Shrike and Raptor really might as well not exist at all. Moving on from pistols though, and on to SMGs, a quick note here, all SMGs are able to roll as a ×2 variant. And the first we'll cover is the Jackal, being our lowest damage but highest fire rate SMG with a 5-shot burst. With the ×1, the Jackal was pretty okay. It wasn't anything amazing, but it was definitely usable, and that fire rate did let it burr hard as shit. It was definitely a lot better than I expected, and a lot more viable than I expected, however, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. That fire rate and just the recoil from that did make it feel a little bit inconsistent at times. And while the DPS was good, it's mostly from that fire rate, and the base damage isn't actually that great, which is unfortunate because the fire rate isn't actually that much higher than the other two SMGs, and this leads to it being the lowest DPS. It works, but that's about it. With the ×2 though, I'm honestly not sure this thing is even usable. I did have a lower damage roll, but that means that I had the higher mag roll. And even with that, I was blowing through a magazine in a fucking instant. 2 ammo per shot with 10+ fire rate is just unsustainable, and even if you find a way to sustain it, the damage output isn't good enough to warrant the effort. Of course, it might get better if you have a higher damage roll, but at that point, it's gonna just become a reload animation simulator. Moving on to the Hyena though, this is our balanced stats SMG, having the best accuracy and lowest recoil with a 4-shot burst. The Hyena is pretty much a step up from the Jackal in almost every single way. The fire rate does take a noticeable hit here, but the DPS is just better, which leads to a much faster time to kill, which means this is a higher DPS gun consuming less ammo because the fire rate is lower. The Jackal may burr harder, but when it comes to actual effectiveness, the Hyena's coming out on top. The ×2 is definitely better than the ×2 Jackal, but that is a very low bar, and the ×2 Hyena still is not great. Even when mag dumping into an enemy's crit, at best it was averaging 2 mags to kill, which the time to kill on that is decent due to the fire rate, but the ammo consumption of 44 bullets per enemy is definitely less so. Granted, that is SMG ammo, so it's definitely still usable, I'm just not sure I can actually suggest it. Moving on to the Wolfhound, this is our highest damage but lowest fire rate with a 3-shot burst. And the ×1 Wolfhound is another damn good SMG. Definitely better than the Jackal, but I do think there could be a debate between the Wolfhound and the Hyena. Both were good and held up decently well, and time to kill felt pretty similar between them. It really does just come down to whether or not you want more fire rate or that higher base damage. And with the ×2, this is definitely the most usable of the ×2s, but does still come with a set of problems. The usability not only comes from actually having somewhat okay damage, but that combined with having the lowest base fire rate. This means that it is the least ammo hungry of the three, however you're still going to be reloading a hell of a lot. Even with a full auto variant, it felt like it was a burst fire gun, just that the burst delay was my reload speed. It's better than the constant looping reload of the Jackal, but only slightly. And finally, for our Dahl SMGs is the Cadejo, being our alien barrel variant, consuming 2 ammo per shot to fire slow-moving plasma orbs, and having a 4-shot burst. Now this is more like it, an alien barrel that chews through ammo and deals literally no damage, exactly as you can usually come to expect. This is a fucking paperweight, and not like an actual paperweight that is a weight that holds down paper, because that would actually deal damage if you threw it at someone's head. This is the paperweight in the sense of being a weight made of paper. It's fucking worthless, but at least it looks cool. With the ×2, it really doesn't get much better, but at least I was seeing health bars move, except that was at the cost of now 3 ammo per shot. The Cadejo is a fucking dumpster of a gun, man. Overall, Dahl SMGs were actually a surprise to me. During playthroughs, I've never really been excited by them. Genuinely, they feel pretty shit during a story run, but somehow they managed to scale into the endgame decently well. They aren't anything game-changing, but they are by far good enough to use, and surprisingly enough, unlike the pistols, there's multiple that are viable. The Jackal is okay, but just it's overshadowed in DPS by both the Hyena and the Wolfhound, with those two having similar DPS, but the Wolfhound specializing in better base damage and the Hyena having higher fire rate. The Cadejo though would be better off being melted down and used as a molten metal enema. And with all the SMGs, I definitely preferred full auto over pretty much anything else. Burst fire was alright, but still full auto just felt like what you want out of an SMG. The only one though I would really recommend avoiding is semi-auto because it just feels like shit. Now moving on from SMGs though, things start to get a little weird with the base stats not reflecting the actual potential strengths of a weapon due to accessories having a greater impact. I'll try to make this as clear as possible where it applies. Moving to ARs though, we'll start with the Puma being the lowest base damage, highest fire rate variant, and having a 5-shot burst. And the Puma is genuinely just a solid weapon. The damage felt really good, especially for the fire rate that it has, and I mean, that kind of makes sense. This base damage isn't anything to scoff at, and when tacked on with that fire rate, it has a similar DPS to a lot of legendaries. I did blow through mags somewhat quick, but that's kind of to be expected when you've got that high of a fire rate. I was definitely chewing up ammo, but not at a rate that felt unreasonable for the damage that was being pumped out. Up next is the Jaguar, having our highest base damage but lowest base fire rate, with accessories giving it the highest potential accuracy, which does kind of end up as our balanced stats AR. The Jaguar comes with a 3-shot burst. burst. And while the Jaguar is not terrible, like it's definitely on the upper end of non-uniques, but unlike the Puma, I definitely felt like I was using a purple weapon. It's alright, it's usable, it's really just nothing special. I'm really not sure I'd really recommend this as a Dahl AR, and that's especially so as we come to our next weapon, the chronicle. This is our balanced base stats with accessories giving it the highest potential damage. The chronicle has a 4-shot burst. This literally negates the existence of the Jaguar. The Jaguar is lower potential damage with lower fire rate. The only thing the Jaguar offers is higher accuracy, but that's really not a big deal. I was even using a chronicle that had a pretty high mag compared to the Jaguar that I used, yet despite that, the base damage of it was still higher while the fire rate was also higher. The Jaguar quite literally offers nothing that the chronicle doesn't, at least in the sense of things that actually matter. And in a similar case to the Puma, the chronicle is just a really solid weapon that definitely holds up to a lot of legendaries. If you're a big fan of Dahl ARs and just want to use one that's not a legendary, this is definitely the best option. And finally here is the Minghua, being our alien barrel AR. The Minghua fires a long-range laser beam, being highly accurate with very little recoil. It can also only be full auto. The Minghua, similar to the Wyvern, is definitely a surprise. The damage was more than good enough to be usable, and for being an alien barrel, its effective range is incredibly high. My only real complaint is that it definitely falls off against tankier enemies, but that's far more than most alien barrels can say. The Minghua is not only a good alien barrel that actually carves out a niche within them, it's just a decent weapon overall and pretty damn fun. Dahl ARs are really just the pinnacle of Dahl. They're simple, reliable weapons that can adapt to whatever situation is required of them. They're effective, tactical, and damn good, and can make use of all 3 firing modes just as effectively as one another. The Puma and the chronicle are fantastic options that can hold up to some legendaries, and the Minghua is a pretty unique option that is good enough to use and have a fun time with. The Jaguar, though, is definitely confusing and flumps in any identity that it could have had. That being said, even then, it's still a really good purple weapon. Coming to our final category, though, is of course sniper rifles. And we'll start out here with the Rattler, being our lowest damage, highest fire rate, having a 5-shot burst fire. Now, the Rattler doesn't have great single-shot damage, but this isn't really a single-shot damage sniper. Full auto and burst fire is really where you want to use the Rattler to make use of that high fire rate, but this can definitely lead to some ammo problems considering the sniper ammo pool. That being said, though, it is actually a pretty good weapon. It's just that it kind of falls under the category of assault rifle more than it does sniper rifle. It does definitely deal more damage than your average assault rifle. Of course, it is a sniper. It has sniper levels of damage, along with having a higher effective range. It's just that it is going to be eating through ammo. It's not as bad as some weapons, but the ammo consumption is definitely still a bit of an issue. I think burst fire is definitely overall ideal just to somewhat help remedy that. Next up is the Asp, being our highest base damage but lowest fire rate, with accessories granting it the highest potential accuracy. This has a 3-shot burst. The Asp is very middle of the road. It's okay, but nothing fantastic. This is a very similar situation to the Jaguar, and by similar, I mean exactly the same. It's really hard to understand why this doesn't exist when the other two are both better in nearly every way. The Asp and the Jaguar aren't like your usual balanced statted weapons because they suffer from having the lowest base fire rate while not having the highest base damage potential. There's just no point. So next is the Diamondback, having our base balanced stats with highest base accuracy, though the accessories give it the highest potential damage. The Diamondback has a 4-shot burst. I think this is the only one of the snipers that I would say is genuinely good. It really perfectly presents that Dahl take on snipers, being a decent enough base damage to kill in a couple of shots, but having the fire rate to be versatile. It's not the best sniper ever, but it's effective in what it sets out to be and does a great job at it. On top of that, it just feels really good to use. You feel those tactics, you get that awesome double tap gameplay. It's satisfying, it looks cool, it works really well with all the firing modes. I think the Diamondback is just the absolute peak of Dahl snipers. I definitely like this one. And finally is the Worm, being our alien barrel option. The Worm consumes 2 ammo per shot, is full auto, and has projectiles that ricochet upon hitting a surface and will then rapidly accelerate. These bullets also penetrate the targets. The Worm has a 3-shot burst. The Worm is, it's lacking in almost every single possible way. The effect is kinda lame and the damage is literally lower than all of the assault rifles. The fire rate is only a little higher than the Rattler. It doesn't even make sense as to why it has less than half the Rattler's damage. A classic alien barrel moment, nuking your ammo reserves and nothing else. If you've been around my channel enough, you know I fucking love Dahl snipers and have forever been disappointed by the lack of any good unique Dahl snipers. Not you, you're barely a sniper. But luckily, while there's no good unique Dahl snipers, there is the Diamondback, and it's definitely a very good weapon. The rest of them, not so much. The Rattler may have its place, but the Wasp and the Worm have some major problems. I do really enjoy Dahl snipers and their focus on that versatility, and I hope that they get some more love in the future. But as they stand right now, overall, they're kind of lacking. Not you though, you sexy fucking beast, I love you. But that's everything that Dahl has to offer, and overall, Dahl does pretty much exactly what it sets out to do. It's special in that there's no gimmicks, no smoke and mirrors, just pure 100% tactics and reliability, baby. Their strength is in having no weakness, and they hold up damn well into the endgame. From their SMGs to sniper rifles, pistols to ARs, Dahl gets it fucking done with no compromise. But that's gonna about do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all that. I'll be live right after this video goes up, right here on YouTube, but also over on my Twitch channel, where there will be a link to down in the description below. And just under that is a link to my Discord server where you can come and join and hang out. But with that all being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.